Personal relationships will always impact politics in a major way. Indeed, in a bigger way than most of us realize, including the Kenyan media. And it goes without saying that those who are closest to us influence us the most. That should be pretty obvious. The photographs appearing on social media that tell us very clearly that the relationship between President Ruto and Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi is very tight. But it is also true to say that in politics, when there's a close relationship, anything can happen. Sometimes it can end up in betrayal. Yeah, as we're going to see very clearly later on my show today. But for now, the relationship between legendary President Thomas Sankara and his very close childhood friend Blaise Compaoré comes to mind. Sankara was betrayed by his very close friend, tragically so. And it is not that Sankara was not warned, but it appears that he got emotional and he ended up in denial. He did not want to believe that his closest friend would ever betray him. But of course, there's nothing new under the sun. Hey. And if in your political analysis you're taking into account personal relationships, then you will not believe what the media is insisting on. Yeah? Trying very hard to convince us that there's tension between Uhuru and Raila. Trying to convince us that there's a major disagreement between the two. I believe at the end of the day, it all boils down to the character, the true character of a man or a woman. And the characters of these two great Kenyans tells me that a section of the media are backing up the wrong tree. Now, we also need to acknowledge that money, cash money, plays a major role in all kinds of relationships, and especially in personal relationships in politics. People will like you, people will love you if you happen to have plenty of mandazi money, or if you appear to have it. Take the relationship between this government and the diaspora, clearly spelled out by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. You stay there, but make sure you send the money home. What? And I believe sometimes money can make impossible things appear to be very true. Take the latest Tifa poll, which tells us the most popular political party in Kenya currently, do you want to guess? Is UDA. Yeah. Now, please allow me to say nothing about that. Okay? Money and relationships, especially in Kenyan politics. Or shall I say money, close relationships amongst those in politics, and betrayal. Those three go together very closely. As today's inside story on Kenyan politics will clearly show us, it will also demonstrate that this thing did not start yesterday. No, there is nothing new under the sun. What we're witnessing is history repeatedly repeating itself. And that is why if you have a firm hold on history, it is very easy for you to predict exactly what will happen next. A very warm welcome to this very entertaining show that I've put together for you today. But first, I need to report that Kumekuchans continue in the spirit of the season to gift me, and indeed in the spirit of the tradition of this channel. You can see details on your screens right now. Yeah, of course, this big boost to the channel helps me a great deal. There are very, very many things I've been able to achieve and do for this channel that I would never have been able to accomplish without this boost from you. Asanteni sana. I believe you can see details on your screens right now. Very quickly, we also still have the sponsorship slots where you can sponsor a Kumekucha video and give this channel a huge boost, even as you give yourself a huge boost, yeah, by publicizing whatever it is that you do or whatever it is that you want to do, like selling some property, yeah, which people have done on this channel very successfully. You can see details on your screens right now. Right, let me assure you in advance that this story I'm about to tell is not just a story. It is an inside story of what happened deep in the corridors of power in Kenyan politics. I want to give you the heads up that it will keep you on the edge of your seats until the end. But please, let us be careful to take home the very important lessons it presents, it reminds us of, even today and even right now. In my opinion, trust only your mother. Although the good book tells us, trust only God, not even your own mother. What? Let's get on with it. Now, I believe we have entered the dark stage. Yeah? You've had several prophecies widely circulated long before the elections that the country called Kenya will enter a dark day. Yeah? I believe we have entered that dark day. Pray hard, my brother. Pray very hard, my sister. And stay safe, guys. As far as possible, or as much as, do everything to stay safe. We need you in the new Kenya. You see, when you know something, information is power. And it's power in this particular case because you know where we are. Now, when you know where you are, it is much easier to stay safe than kama umezuba, you have no idea where you are. Yeah, which is the case with a lot of our fellow brothers and sisters in Kenya. Yeah. And where we are calls you for you to be alert, very alert, especially for breaking news. Yes. Very alert for what is happening around you. Yes. Very alert to prophecy. So when you understand your country a little better, even the things that are coming, you will understand. You will understand why the Almighty is so upset with a country called Kenya that He wants to put things right. Yeah. He wants to destroy the old and bring in the new. You would completely understand why. So let's get started. Early in the year 1965, there was a very curious confrontation right within the precincts of Parliament. Yep. Now this confrontation was between the President of the Republic of Kenya, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, and a man of Asian descent called Pio Gama Pinto. Now the image most of us have of Asians is very different, but let me assure you this was a real freedom fighter. He had even been imprisoned, yeah, by the colonialists, yeah, for fighting for the independence of Kenya. Pinto was just like me and you. He had that fire burning inside for a better Kenya. Yeah, that was his only mistake. And he had heard that the new president, Jomo Kenyatta, had allocated himself a total of 50 farms, 50, in Central Province and the Rift Valley. Now, some of these farms had been taken away from poor Kikuyu squatters who are going to be evicted. Yeah, some of these, to poesha maneno, some of these squatters were later resettled in the Rift Valley. Yeah, which caused yet another serious problem in 2007. But that's a story for another day. Yeah, so this is what Pinto had discovered. And of course, the intelligence of the president is always very spot on. They had discovered that Pinto was so incensed about this that he was going to bring up the issue in parliament. Yeah, and in fact, he was going to move a motion of no confidence based on this latest move, because Pinto himself had approached the president and told him, this is not right. But Jomo Kenyatta had stuck to his guns. Yeah. So in this confrontation within parliament, precincts of parliament, Jomo was just coming to tell Pinto to stand down. Yeah. And after a brief exchange of words, Kenyatta called Pinto, "You bastard." Now, what happened next, many believe, was the main catalyst to the murder of Pinto. Pinto responded, "You too are a bastard." A stunned friend who was witnessed this drama pulled Pinto aside and asked him, "What are you thinking? How can you call Kenyatta a bastard?" Pinto responded, "He called me one first." Yeah? Now, there's something many people didn't understand. Pinto and Jomo Kenyatta had a very long history. And I believe it was a bit difficult for Pinto to see Kenyatta as the new small god in Kenya, president, because Pinto was one of the main people who used to raise finances for Jomo Kenyatta. In fact, he was the main person who raised finances for his defense in the Kapenguria trial. Yeah, when he was put up for trial as being a member of Mau Mau, yeah, Pinto raised the cash. And even as he was in prison, Pinto used to visit. Whenever he was allowed visits, Pinto would be the first there. Yeah. So I'm just thinking that, other people saw Jomo differently. Pinto saw Jomo as the man who used to say, Bwana Pinto, ile wakati ingine ukikuja nitafutia kakitu kadogo. Mambo si mzuri sana, tafuta kakitu kadogo. Then Pinto would say, "Yes, ndio mzee, nitajaribu. Pesa ngumu lakini nitajaribu hapa na pale." So with that kind of history, Pinto probably just saw Jomo as that harmless guy used to help. It was a fatal mistake. About a week before Pinto died, he had a very interesting visit. It was from Tom Mboya. Now, why was this an interesting visit? Well, they were on opposite sides of the political, ideological divide. Okay? Because Pinto was very close to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Raila's father, and these are people who are seen to be leaning to the east. They were getting aid from Russia, the former Soviet Union, and so on and so forth. Yeah, they were socialists in their thinking. Yeah, and Mboya was a capitalist damu. Yeah, and he was right on the other side, and the two were political rivals. They never sat on the same table politically. But Mboya paid a visit to Pinto. Yeah. Now, I have various verifications of the fact that this meeting took place. Yeah, for those who doubt. And one of them is from a lawyer who took part in the recent presidential petition. Now, Mboya told Pinto that despite their ideological differences, yeah, there was a plan to assassinate him, and he needed to get out of the country as quickly as possible. Otherwise, he was going to be killed. Now, it is said because of the political rivalry the two had, Pinto had his doubts, and he asked Mboya, "Why are you warning me?" Mboya is said to have responded and said he could not fail to warn him about such a serious thing. Yeah, because politics and political battles are one thing, murder and shedding blood is completely another thing. Yeah, that's what that was the whole gist of what Mboya told him. Now, Pinto was a very popular politician. Obviously, somebody who had fought for independence. He was very popular in the country at that time. Yeah, and one of the things, that made him doubt, he told Mboya, seriously, if somebody murdered me, it would cause such a serious uproar in the country. Mboya quietly told him they'll still do it. Okay? Now, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga organized for Pinto to hide in Mombasa, and the plan was that he would sneak out of the country from there. Yeah? But then that whole plan was stopped by somebody called Joseph Murumbi. Yeah. Now Joseph Murumbi, as you know, is the second vice president of Kenya, and that's a whole other story. Yeah. But for now, Murumbi came in and said, no. I know Jomo. He can't do something like that. There's no way. I believe these are some of the tricks of Sungura Mjanja Tomboya. Yeah. Probably they're trying to achieve something here. Yeah. This story cannot be true. And in any case, he promised that he will speak to Jomo himself, because they were quite close. He promised he'll speak to Jomo himself and diffuse this whole issue. Tutamaliza hii maneno. Hii maneno ni kidogo, tutamaliza. Yeah? And so Pinto did not leave the country. He stayed put. Now, on the morning of February 25th, 1965, it was a Thursday, Pio Gama Pinto reversing out of his compound. Now, his house was somewhere where the Sarit Center is today. You know, actually, there's something very interesting about the history of Sarit Center. For Sarit Center to be built, the owners had to buy very many plots around that area. That area was divided into very, very many different plots. They had to be bought separately, which was quite a major task. And then the whole location was put together. That's because their research had shown them that that was the best place to locate a shopping mall. Yes, in those days there were no shopping malls in Kenya. It was a phenomenon that had not arrived in Kenya yet. So Pio Gama Pinto's house was somewhere where the Sarit Center is today. Yeah. In his car he had his, I believe, 5-6-year-old daughter. The idea was to drop her into school and then off to Parliament buildings. It was to actually kickstart, yeah, put in motion vote of no confidence bill that he wanted to push through Parliament. He was supposed to achieve all that that afternoon. Okay. Now, as he was reversing, somebody just appeared at his gate and called out his name. So when Pinto turned his head to look, 2 shots were fired. He slumped on the steering wheel, and that was the end of Pio Gama Pinto. Impunity 10, people of Kenya 0. Some months later, a friend of the now late Pinto got a phone call from a man who claimed he knew Pinto's killers. So they agreed to meet. And the man said he was actually a taxi driver and he knew who had pulled the trigger. Yeah. Now they went to time this man in a place which he always frequented. Yeah. It was a certain brothel in town. Actually, the brothel was in Westlands. Okay. Now, there's interestingly, fascinatingly, and not very easy to explain, this guy always wore a red shirt. Yeah, imagine that. So they waited, and sure enough, the guy turned up. And sure enough, the guy admitted that he's the one who had killed Pinto. Yeah, and he had been paid 7,000 bob, which was an absolute fortune those days. Yeah, it was not the 7,000 bob Kenya shillings of today. And the man said, gosh, it was so much money, what could I do? I mean, it was an absolute fortune. I just accepted the money. And in any case, I was given government protection. Yeah, actually, some CID officers, the ones who had approached him to do the job, organized, and they stayed in a car very close as assassination took place and ensured that he would make a clean getaway. Yeah, job done. That's how it had worked out. That was the very first political assassination in the history of Kenya. Yes. That day, impunity reared its ugly head. Yes. And gave Kenyans a glimpse of much more to come. Okay. Impunity is not a joke in Kenya. Yeah. Many have fought it and failed. Many have fought it and lost their life as a result. But fortunately, Kenyans have never tired. They have never tired to fight against this evil called impunity. Now, this is one of the evils I believe Almighty is looking down on Kenya and totally being disgusted. That all what Kenyans have done, what Kenyan leaders have done in the past. Take Pinto as a very good example. Pinto was a great helper to Jomo Kenyatta. Yeah, he assisted him, as we have said, in raising funds. He assisted in raising funds for his defense at Kapenguria. He was really a close friend. Sasa walikosania nini? Yeah. Where did things go wrong in this relationship? Things went wrong in this relationship over land. Land illegally acquired. Land Jomo had apportioned to himself. Okay? Now, some of this land had been bought by the new Kenyan government, yeah, from the colonial settlers who are living in the country, and the whole idea was to redistribute the land back to their previous rightful owners. Yeah, that was what was supposed to happen, but it didn't happen. The government bought them back, and the government kept them, yeah, for senior people in government, yeah, and for friends of government. That's exactly what happened. And that is exactly where Pio Gama Pinto fell out with his previous very good and very close friend. Yeah. Now this should be a warning to the Chebukatis of this world and the rest. And the whole warning should be very clear. Yeah, the message should be very clear on the wall. That normally impunity will use you, whether it's for good jobs, like in the case of Pio Gama Pinto, whether it's for good, genuine jobs you do for them, or even for dirty government jobs, like in the case of Chiloba and Chebukati. But in the end, the tissue paper syndrome kicks in without fail. Yeah? When they're finished using you, when you've finished your usefulness, they get rid of you in the most brutal manner. That always happens again and again and again. Yeah? And if it's not murder, you're just going to be kicked out into the streets with nothing. That's what usually happens. Okay? And that's why I keep on saying on this channel, the best thing to do and the only thing to do is to always do something that will stand the test of time. Now I put it to you what impunity did and what finally caused what ended up costing Pio Gama Pinto, a great nationalist, his life, is not something that will stand the test of time. That's what I can assure you. It may take another 50 years, it may take another 100 years even, but it will not stand the test of time. But deep inside, I'm persuaded it will not take 50 years. Indeed, I'm persuaded it will not even take 10 years from now. Yeah, it will be proven that it cannot stand the test of time. All for a better Kenya. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.